Wonder if everyone could take their seats, please.
Well, I'll get it together. You'll see it in writing.
All right. Actually, I think that was 6-4, not 7-3. But anyway.
No, I think it was Moon, Iboka, and Sage.
And Fruin.
No, Fruin didn't vote. No, he voted yes.
Oh, he voted yes. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Love that car you were in, man. Yeah.
At 48 DeSoto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, actually, the guy Ernesto's grandfather bought it. It was his source of income. Gave it to his father, who was his source of income. And this is his livelihood. It's the third generation, and he drives tourists around. No, they didn't let me drive. No, it has a Volkswagen engine because obviously you can't get parts for DeSoto or any parts from the United States.
Well, sure is cool. Nevertheless,
Okay.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, excuse me. And as soon as our clerk gets up here, and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Lauer,
Here.
Alderman Sage,
Here.
Alderman Malomboy,
Here.
Alderman Burgess,
Here.
Alderman Painter,
Here.
Alderman Schmidt,
Here.
Alderman Black,
Here.
Alderman Hallman,
Here.
Alderman Fruin,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. And we're going to start with recognitions and appointments. We have the appointment of Lauren Lacey to the Connect Transit Board. Lauren, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And reappointment of Tricia Stiller to the Cultural District Commission. Tricia, are you in the audience? Thank you. Thank you. At this point, we're going to move to public comment. And we've got quite a few people have signed up for public comments. So would you, I'm going to read them in groups of 3 so that you can be ready to come forward and be as succinct as possible so we can get to everybody this evening. And just want to also clarify, if you want to actually have problems solved in real time or to talk about some of the issues, either on the agenda or not, you can always come to the Mayor's Open House on Fridays from 4:30 to 5:30 before a regular Monday City Council meeting. So we just had one. We just sit right around there at the fishbowl and we talk about issues. And you can get problems, as I say, often solved in real time and perhaps answers as soon as possible. So we do not respond. That's our general practice and policy. So this is public comment, starting out with Paula Stubblefield, and then Patricia Martin and Alton Franklin. And we'll start with Paula. Can you come forward, please?
I'm Paula Stubblefield, and new addition to my getting around, addressing the TIF district downtown. I know we don't want a blighted downtown for people to come down to the Coliseum for events and such, but we have a parking problem within your TIF districts for handicapped. They're like 1 or 2 every 2 or 3 blocks. If you're trying to bring businesses downtown, I suggest in your TIF districts, please address closer handicap parking, because frankly, at Christmas time, I could find a parking spot in the mall easier than I can downtown on Dead Day Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Again, Patricia Martin, Alton Franklin, and then Glenn Woodwig.
Hey, thank you. As part of my research on elder issues, I recently went to a workshop in Springfield organized by the Attorney General on crime victims' rights. I was the only person there from Bloomington. I told the speaker later that I found the session both educating and depressing, and she answered by saying, yes, but we need people like you here as advocates. And a member of the Illinois Department on Aging made a similar comment to me later. So obviously this gives me a strong incentive to continue, and I've given the printed information to our state's attorney, Mr. Chambers, who told me he had also worked on it, which I think is great. Therefore, what's important to me here is that you are acknowledging this as well through the proclamation against elder abuse. In fact, I took the proclamation with me and showed it to some of the people I met, as well as flyers dealing with mental health and suicide prevention. And I also took Chief Hefner's report, I think it was about 2 years ago, indicating that we had no murders that year. I also recently received a letter from the Elder Justice Coalition in Washington in response to a letter I had written to them about all of us, mentioning the proclamation as well. And I quote, "That is great news, for I'm sure you're aware change often happens fastest and most effectively at the local and state levels, so having your local leaders involved is excellent." So I'm supporting our administration, I hope. However, as we all know, despite our attempts at positive solutions, and they are strong ones, critical situations still develop too frequently, affecting again the vulnerable members of our population. For these members, the young and the old are the heart of our society, and we must make sure that they are safe not only in their homes, but in the facilities they use by intensifying the hiring procedures of those who work with them and removing employees who cannot meet our justifiably high standards. Also, since we continue to put together millions of taxpayers' dollars to improve our community, we must make sure that this money is in stable hands. Perhaps employees and administrators should be required to be familiar with tests like the mental health first aid test that is being promoted by the health department. And I sent copies of flyers about these tests to all the county libraries, so there's about 12, 13 libraries. The library director in Chenoa, Cheryl Siebert, assiduously contacted both myself and Laura Beavers about setting up a lecture this spring, so Laura will do the lecture herself. And I'm most impressed with Cheryl's concern and energy, for this is exactly what all of us must do and need to do. So I want to thank you again for the changes that are being made, and I'm most grateful for the direction in which we're going. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Elton Franklin, Glenn Ludwig, and Donna Bolin.
My name is Alton Franklin. I live at 508 Bloomington, 508 Patterson Drive here in Bloomington. The one thing that struck me, I was reading through all the material about the TIF, and the one thing that sort of jumped out at me is that they feel that the health, safety, and morals, as well as the welfare of the public, are being threatened, and that in order to promote and protect the health, safety, morals, and welfare of the public, the blighting factor and conditions in certain parts of the municipality need to be eradicated, and the redevelopment of the municipality be undertaken in order to remove and alleviate adverse conditions, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Quite simply, my morals are what they are. And this city has not a damn thing to do with it, and I mean that literally. Quite frankly, I just don't, it's beyond belief to me that this august body feels that they have the wherewithal, never mind the authority and the right to dictate or to steer morals. You do that by example, and some of the examples we've seen haven't been that great. Quite simply, leave my morals alone. Let's talk about the infrastructure of the city. Let's talk about the things that make a difference. As this young lady mentioned earlier, how about a little bit more accessibility for folks downtown? You know, those folks that are in wheelchairs and that have other health ailments that give them those placards, they have money too. And they have every bit the right of every able-bodied citizen to make course through the city and do the things that they want to do. Instead of trying to choose, the other thing that struck me is that in some fashion you believe that you know the right kind of businesses. To me, the right kind of businesses are the ones that don't require $700,000 worth of tax relief. Coming back to that morals thing, I don't know how you can do that with an all good conscience while you're busting out the bottom of the poor guys and poor gals' pockets, going after the few pennies that they have with the new tax or the increased tax. Folks, you might want to study some morals. Maybe you just haven't been educated. I was very fortunate to have the antecedents that I had, my parents and my grandparents, and in a couple of cases, my great-grandparents. They instilled in me a good moral character. Part of that is standing up for what's right and doing what's right. Y'all try it for a change, okay? Thank you.
Glenn Ludwig, Donna Bolin, and Jamie Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Glenn Ludwig, 23 Astoria Way. Boy, things are really timed well for me. Cubs won, and this morning I found on my desk something that I was working on back in July that fits pretty well from my viewpoint. Some things you've been talking about in your township meeting, and later on, I think, in consent agenda I, related to compensation for elected people. Back in July, I made a note after a meeting of the council, which I apparently was frustrated with because I started a paper that addressed an issue that kind of ties in here. And of course, my career has all been in business. I don't have any idea how government's supposed to operate. Oh, I've got some opinions, but I really don't know. But it seems like in this compensation thing in government, we don't do it at all like the business world does it, because we're looking for the right people in the right role in business, and we're looking for them to assume some responsibilities and to deliver some results. And those things really aren't in place very well in a government situation, and that's what those thoughts I put down back in July, which I'm going to clean up tomorrow and email to you, because I'm not going to try to talk about them tonight. But the point is that I want to make is that we ought to consider, in my humble opinion, doing some things in government the same way successful businesses do them. And that would make people accountable that are in positions for their role, for some delivering some valuable results, and other things that kind of are not very well defined in government. I won't go any further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donna Bolin, Jamie Evans, and Max Beck.
Hi, I'm Donna Bolin. I live in Ward 2. I wasn't able to be here last Monday to talk about sewers. So that's what I'm going to address today. According to the principles of the CIP, they are to illustrate current unmet capital needs, and emphasis is on the needs, preserve and enhance existing facilities and infrastructure, and provide balanced strategy for capital improvements given anticipated resources. Now, as far as I am concerned, balanced funding needs to be tipping the scale back toward the infrastructure rather than the direction it has been going for decades. And based on the comprehensive plan, it implies that new assets should not be added. They need to be put in on the back burner in favor of current infrastructure. On page 182 in the comprehensive plan, and I'm quoting, "Infrastructure is the core of what cities provide for their residents, demands significant and continuing investment to remain functional. It's a Tier 1 priority. Sewer repairs have been seriously underfunded for years, and regardless of how much this council has approved for infrastructure, it is not sufficient. Roads are the backbone of commerce and therefore economic growth. My background is in infectious disease, and I am horrified that we have combined sewers in the 21st century. That's raw sewage can back up into people's basement. Toxins and fecal material get sent out into the creeks in this area. the outdated and poorly maintained sewers are a public health hazard. Taxes were raised twice in 3 years for $10 million bond for Streets 1.0. But the city is in a catch-22 position because you need to do remedial funding for sewers before you can move on to Streets 2.0. You need to allocate enough money for the sewers, and people that are looking to move here, they don't ask about sewers. That is correct. But that's because they assume or presume and have an expectation that an affluent, well-educated community with multiple city-owned entertainment revenues would budget sufficient money for the modern, well-maintained sewer system. And I will take issue with anyone that calls me a naysayer because I think public health trumps entertainment in the quality of life arena. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Evans, Max Beck, and Jason Jankowak. Wyack, sorry. I'm sure I messed that up.
Good evening.
Jamie. Yes.
My name is Jamie Evans, and I'm a McLean County resident. I live in Leroy with my daughter, Michaela, and I'm here to talk about the Creativity Center. To me, it's a highly valued asset to more than just Bloomington residents. Because of the far-reaching inclusiveness of the BCA programs, we continue to participate actively in their programming. Many of us outside of Bloomington's borders consciously make the choice to drive here because of the diversity of the programming as well as the opportunities provided to both all ages and the extended community. And when I speak of the community, that's the regional aspect that the Creativity Center reaches. It draws from many, many communities locally. My daughter is active in music and theater and has participated in multiple the Creativity Center opportunities. In fact, she will be performing this week at the BCPA, working with a workshop on youth and harmony, partly partnering with the Creativity Center. Last year, it brought 350 students from 14 Central Illinois high schools and gave them the opportunity to learn from and perform with both local and international leaders in the a cappella world, and it looks to be at least that big this year. She's gained exposure to global opportunities and talents because of the Creativity Center. She has a different vision of life and what it can be, opportunities reached and experiences because of the Creativity Center. The culture at the BCPA and the Creativity Center is one of community, but also of friendship, leadership, support, encouragement, and instilling a belief that you can do or be anything if you put your heart into it. The biggest value that I feel the BCPA Creativity Center offers is the investment into the people of this community. They invest into their hearts, their lives, of everyone that participates and attends the programming. They invest in their sense of confidence and sense of self. They provide opportunities for children that otherwise would not have that opportunity based on their financial situation. Those things are something that is going to be a return in value to the Bloomington community by far more than just dollars and cents. You're going to have children that have vision, they have happiness, they have sense of self that's going to turn around, and it's going to come back to this community. There's life-defining and changing moments that are happening here, and that is something that makes a difference in both the short term and the long term. These moments are far-reaching beyond just this generation. They will affect many generations beyond. The BCPA and the Creativity Center invests back into this community. It's a huge investment, and it's going to reach far into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Max Beck, Jason, whose name I butchered, I apologize, and Cecilia Tuchard. Hey, Max.
Hi, my name is Max Beck. My family and I live here in Bloomington. My brother and I have been participating in activities at the Creativity Center for a few years now. We both started in the Student Spotlight Summer Workshop. This is where I learned that I have a passion for the arts and was cast in my first play. The Creativity Center is an amazing place where I and others can be ourselves and find our voice. At the center, I have not only learned about acting, I have had the chance to attend a class with Casey Abrams and learn about Foley artists. I also had the chance to meet there for brainstorming sessions for the Not in Our Town mural. Since that first workshop, my family situation has changed. If it weren't for places like the Creativity Center, my brother and I wouldn't be able to participate in activities like these. Our community needs the Creativity Center.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Thanks. Next, Jason, and then Cecilia and Gary Lambert.
Good evening. I don't know how I follow up after that, gentlemen, but I'll try. Yeah, I'm going to lose any way we look at it. My name is Jason Jankowiak. It's actually said just like it's spelled.
I'm educable. It just takes a while.
Yeah, no problem. It's an honor to be with you today. Finally meet some of you. I've gotten in contact, strangely enough. I didn't think to email you, Mayor Renner, so I will email you about some of my concerns so you can see what I'm going to talk about here. I'm here. I live on 1312 North Hershey Drive, and we have some traffic lights, some huge construction that's going to be happening that's set to go, and I've opposed this extremely hard as much as I could. I could go into all the personal stuff, everything that you saw in my emails, and if you've been in any contact with me, I want to stick strictly on the plan itself, what it's going to do, what it's not going to do, how it was put together, and why I'm so opposed to it. Because I could tell you about my life, and one person out of 100,000 people really doesn't make a whole bit of a difference. But I'm not even going to talk about the project today as far as that goes. You've got enough information, and I can go over any of it in detail. There's much more to be said, obviously. That's me doing a kind of abbreviated in that email so you could tell how long I could talk for. I'm already over a minute. What I wanted to do was tell you a few things. While putting together all that information, I really got a new appreciation for where I live. When we first moved there, we on Hershey Road, we knew it was a busier street, but we had a family. I had 3 at the time, maybe 4. Maybe the 4th was on the way. I've got 5 now. I don't even know. But I had kids, and so we wanted a nice, quiet place to raise our kids. And I can tell you now, just trying to get all this information together and doing what I've done, I really love my home. I love the neighborhood. I love the traffic is not a problem at all for us. So I just wanted to kind of go into that as far as it goes. But I chose Bloomington specifically because, and I was going to say, congratulations to the Cubs. My wife's a fan. She's probably watching. And I know losing, I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. So I feel for you guys, and I'm behind you 100%. We'll get there someday. So I chose Bloomington because it's the best city in the country. I mean, I just love it. I can't even tell you how much I love it. When I got here, we looked around. When we moved here originally, I had one daughter at the time. She loved it. We loved the parks. Everything was taken care of so well. What concerned me while getting information about this project was the people. I went door to door. I talked to many people what they thought. And most of those people, I don't think any of them are here right now. And I can tell you what concerns me is they told me their reasoning is they don't believe you listen to them. And that concerned me because I never had a problem. I see you listening. I've watched many of the videos of the council meetings, and I hope that we can prove them wrong with the information that I gave you. If we can, immediately put that up for a vote as soon as possible, and if we can kill that indefinitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia and then Gary Lambert.
Good evening. My name is Cecilia Tuhart, and I own a U.S. corporation under the name Swedids. It's my brand name as well. I'm here to talk about family friendliness. I think that dovetails with the 2 previous speakers, and I would like to run through a brief. Mayor Renner said to be brief about this concept, and I will. So I would like to talk about free enterprise. And free enterprise is actually part of a free enterprise system. So I'm here to let everybody know about it so that we're all on the same page with a working definition. Free enterprise is a type of economy where products, prices, and services are determined by the market, not the government. It's capitalism, not communism. Things that are free are unconstrained, and a business is an enterprise. So free enterprise refers to an economy where businesses are free from government control. How is the United States a free enterprise system? The U.S. economic system of free enterprise operates according to 5 main principles. Number 1, the freedom to choose our businesses, the right to private property, the profit motive, competition, and consumer sovereignty. What are the characteristics of a free enterprise system? Consumer preferences and spending, not the government, drives what types of products and services companies offer. The government allows you to choose any type of business or field that you are interested in owning or seeking employment. What were Adam Smith's ideas about the free enterprise system? Adam Smith is considered the founder of modern economics. Adam Smith advocated the capitalist free enterprise system based on the belief that mankind are motivated by rational self-interest. His book, Wealth of Nations, became a standard textbook for economists throughout the Western world. Now I have explained to you the definition of a free enterprise system, and I've indicated to you what a free enterprise is defined as off the internet. This is the information that we're not only sharing with each other, and I'm sharing it with you tonight so that everybody understands when I've talked about that I don't recognize a free enterprise system in place in Bloomington. That's what I meant.
Gary Lambert.
Good evening. In looking at tonight's packet, I see for this Baymont Inn, they are in arrears over 2 years for payment of their taxes that they have collected from their customers. One of the major responsibilities of this council is the oversight of both the collection and the disbursement of public funds. I think we need to improve in that area. On tonight's agenda is the downtown TIF. That's going to require the expenditure of a lot of money. Got an email today from the Edgar County Watchdogs. Interesting quote. All too often, ignoring the past is why nothing ever gets fixed. Even a drunk has to recognize their past if they want to stop being a drunk. Doing good. Our friend, our neighbors to the north, let me get them in sequence here. Coliseum director fired over card use. Curtis admitted the errors in judgment, October 15th. Councilman to the north, October 18th. This is an embarrassing way to learn a lesson, said Preston. I wish I had been diligent in my record keeping and used better judgment. I suggest to you that it is not a matter of judgment. It is a matter of theft. There is no way to whitewash their actions. I carried a credit card for major corporations for a number of years. Improper use of that credit card was grounds for dismissal. In tonight's, not the packet, but the financials, I don't know the details of them. September 26th, we've got an entry for $104. That was in the P card section. It says fraudulent charge to be refunded. 9/27, $33. Rosie's Pub. Personal lunch has been reimbursed by Mayor Terry Renner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on now to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone on the council would like to remove from the consent agenda? Alderman Sage.
I'd like to pull 7J, please.
7J. 7J. Anything else?
I, please. I.
7I.
Did you want to? Yeah. You go first, then.
Okay. Anything else? And do you want to make your statement?
Mayor, at the end of the night, I'd like to make a statement, but I'm going to skip my statement right now.
You are? Oh, okay.
Save me some time at the end, please.
Okay. You're throwing me off here, Jim. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exceptions of items 7J and 7I?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Hellman. And if you'll go ahead and vote. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And we're going to start with item 7J with, in the order in which they were pulled, Alderman Sage.
Thank you, Mayor. And perhaps this would be just simply clearing up or making some changes to the staff report. As presented in the packet, in the background section, it says on April 25th, the City Council considered an ordinance. It goes on to say that after discussion, the council voted unanimously to pass an ordinance that liquor license fee increases be spread over the next 5 years. And in reviewing the minutes for the April 25th meeting, I'm looking at specifically page 13. The roll call that's recorded there is not unanimous.
Correct.
And so I'm wondering, am I misunderstanding what's presented here from in the consent agenda item, or does this need to be changed somehow to reflect what's actually in the minutes?
Good question. Mr. Hales?
We'll certainly double check that. As indicated, this particular memo was prepared by George Boyle, so there could have been a mistake in, how
Okay.
in that, but we will certainly check on it and make sure that this memo is modified to correctly reflect whether or not it was unanimous or not.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's pretty clear it was not unanimous.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, David. And then, Mayor, are you willing to entertain a motion to, and I would move that then with the suggested changes by the city manager, that item 7J be presented with, again, those edits around the roll call.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will move approval of that.
Move approval. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Painter. Okay. At this point, then, an aye vote is in favor of this, of J, with the clarification. Okay, the motion passes 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And Alderman Fruin, you had 7I.
I did, Mayor. Diana, we haven't talked about this at all, so I'm not sure what direction you want to go, but is it okay if I make a motion to? I want to be clear on this. I want to make a motion that the ordinance given to us be approved as written without any changes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderwoman Schmidt.
So I'd just like to take a couple minutes, and I think I do this for, I hope, educational and improvement reasons. And I hope it can carry over to our retreat, and maybe we can talk about some of these issues a little bit. But what I picked out from this, excuse me, is we had a city manager that gave us some comparative data ahead of time, so thank you, David, for doing that. That data clearly showed that City of Bloomington alderman and the mayor were clearly in a lower paid position than other surrounding communities. We often say when we come up here and we run for office, we don't do it for the money, and none of us do. But it illustrates a couple things to me. I know
Myself, I don't know about anybody else, but I offered an opinion, and I think that's one of the things that I want to carry over to our retreat. We have to find a better way to communicate with each other, regardless of what the issue is, on how we're feeling and whether we agree or disagree with some of the comments that are out there. I put something out there. I don't know that anybody else did. That happens to all of us from time to time, so we need to find a better way to share comments back and forth. Um, I think if this data pertained to any other employee in the city of Bloomington, we would be changing this in a heartbeat. It's very clear. It's a not very popular issue to talk about. It's uncomfortable. It's the election season, and nobody wants to stand up here and give ourselves a raise. So what we do, we just push it off till the next council and the next council and the next council. This was last increased or approved 16 years ago in October of 2000. So I think this illustrates the fact that the uncomfortable, the touchy, the delicate subjects just get passed and passed along. We see it all the time. I guess I'll leave it at that, but I think there's some messages with this particular agenda item that really carry over to how we do what we do. And I hope that during our retreat we can talk about this whole communication gap we have, and a lot of it's driven by the Freedom of Information Act and our hesitancy to talk to one another and share ideas with one another. And I better not get started on that, but anyway, the motion's there. It's been seconded. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Unless there's any other comments, we can go ahead and vote. An aye vote is in favor of the motion as presented.
Real quick, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just hope this reminds me a lot of the township discussion, and we have to do this every 4 years by statute. And I'm hoping that we can mark on a calendar some 3.5 years from now that we start talking about this conversation 6 months before October, say the April timeframe. And maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not, but when people ask me how much I make as the alderman, and I tell them, they are shocked. They think it's some big paying position. I mean, nobody comes up here for the money. And look at the mayor, for example. I mean, that is a significant amount of work that is put in to that position, as is the alderman, and for $1,000 a month, and I think Jim had talked about, and others have said, $100 a week, hasn't been touched in 16 years. The ordinance could be driving now because it's politically, it's a kind of a third rail, and I'll be voting for this motion. I had expressed interest in at least discussing it, but I'm doing it under the assumption that somebody's marking on a calendar for 3.5 years from now that we review this again and actually have a robust public discussion about it, not the last minute before the statute says that we have to make this decision.
Well, and then this one is something that the council could consider more periodically. But yeah, Jim?
I think a good time to talk about that is off election cycle. Take some of the uncomfortableness off of it, so maybe some year when there's not an election.
And the city manager and I have talked about this several times. Said, at some point, maybe like the budget task force, some other group other than us can evaluate it and make recommendations.
Yeah.
I mean, even the McLean County Board, which I would argue is the most conservative organization in the community, gave themselves raises in an expense account in the most recent last time that they did this. And so the fact that we won't even touch it is I'm just saying it, but we like what we do, and we're passionate for the community, but I hope that we can actually do this well before the deadline.
Okay. We like what we do, and therefore, let's vote on this motion. Thank you. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Thank you. And we move right along to our regular agenda, and we have consideration of adopting 3 ordinances to establish the proposed Downtown Southwest Redevelopment Project, TIF. And we're going to start with a brief presentation by Austin Grammer, followed with about a 10-minute council discussion. Austin, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before us tonight is the culmination of a long, multiple-month process to create the proposed Downtown Southwest TIF district. In prior presentations, I presented maps and illustrations which outline the boundary of the TIF district and the different blighting factors that have qualified the area. But I thought tonight I would focus in on the pictures that were included in the eligibility study that were taken by our consultant at PGAV of the actual existing conditions of these buildings. Just, I guess, to serve as a reminder of why we're doing this. We are trying to correct the issue of these obsolete buildings and eliminate the blighting factors that are predominant throughout the area to try to provide a place of potential employment or to try to provide recreation areas, potentially mixed-use development is what our comprehensive plan calls out, where people could live in these buildings. Unfortunately, in the condition that they're in today, they're not habitable, and it is the conditions that we see today that give us a strong indication that municipal assistance is going to be likely necessary to turn these properties around. We've had multiple consultants, SB Friedman and PGAV, and our TIF attorney, Kathy Fieldor, indicate to us that it would be a prudent step at this time to go ahead with the creation of the proposed TIF district. That will put us in the position that when we do get a development proposal from a development team that meets our specifications and standards and that has a project in mind that you all would support, that we can be ready to support that and move forward quickly, but that can only be done if the TIF district is in place. As has been discussed before, if it's ultimately determined that TIF is not the tool that is needed, if other tools could be used, the TIF could be closed down, and the only thing that we would be out is the time and effort that we've come to this place to just put us in the position to be ready to assist private development on these properties. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but otherwise we have before us the three ordinances that would put in place the TIF district, the ordinance to adopt the TIF plan and redevelopment project, to designate the area for tax increment financing, and then to adopt tax increment financing for the area.
Questions of Austin? Alderman Lauer.
I would just like to review the actual appraised value of these properties so that the public is aware, and the proposed price tag that's on these is, in my opinion, what's holding this up, and that's from the private sector. I don't view the government as the driving force behind any of this, and so I believe that we're acting reactionary rather than being pro-development here. And so just so that everybody understands what's going on.
Alderman Black.
Thank you, and thank you, Austin. We've talked about this topic a lot, at least in my years here, and so I'd like to make a motion that we approve items A, B, and C together, if that's possible.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Motion by Alderman Black, second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Any further discussion? Okay. Austin, you must have done an awesome job.
All right, thank you.
Again, if you vote, an aye is in favor of this motion as presented. The motion carries 8-1. There's one nay to announce, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Lauer.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. Thank you again, Austin. We move to item B, and this is consideration of an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement between the City of Bloomington and Milan Hotels for its proposed acquisition and redevelopment of Baymont Inn Suites at 604.5 IA Drive. And again, we're going to start with a brief presentation.
Sure. Thank you.
Deja vu.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have Ravi Wada, who is a member of the development team, Magnus LLC, and also Greg Rockstraw, who is the manager of Milan's hotel property that's in Peoria. They're available if you have questions, but I have prepared a presentation that goes along with the council memo and economic development incentive application binder that was included in your packet. The subject property that we're looking at here is the Baymont Inn and Suites on IAA Drive. It's immediately adjacent to the new Empire Crossing Shopping Center. You'll recall all of this general area along IAA Drive and Empire Frontage Road was included in the Empire Street Corridor TIF district that was approved by council earlier this year. Many of the adjacent properties around the former Colonial Plaza Shopping Center were found to contain qualifying factors for TIF, and so the decision was made at the time to include those adjacent properties in the TIF. But by including them in the TIF, we hope to achieve the redevelopment plans outlined in the TIF district, which was to reduce or eliminate the conditions that qualified it for TIF to begin with. And that whole TIF district was created as a conservation area, which means that it's on its way to becoming blighted. And we would hope that by interceding and assisting with private development, we can prevent it from becoming blighted. And so again, that's one of the other main goals of the Empire Street TIF is to prevent the occurrence or reoccurrence of blighting conditions, and then also to enhance the tax base for the city and the overlapping taxing districts. The property, as you may see it today or online at baymontinns.com, looks to be in fairly good condition, but if you were to actually go out to the property and drive around or walk around the property, you will see that there are multiple instances of deterioration and unfortunately neglect. The current owner of the property is behind on payments of real estate taxes and hotel motel taxes to the city, and it's obviously apparent that a lack of investment has been made in the property, which has caused it to fall into this current state that you find it today. Milan Hotels proposes to acquire the property and redevelop it into a Best Western Plus. The Best Western company has been rebranding themselves and has developed these three tiers to differentiate their different properties, of which they have customers or hotels that align themselves with their brand. We originally met with the developer and encouraged them to pursue the highest level of quality and make the greatest investment possible in this property. That's what we're really wanting to see. I think this is a good investment for the city to back because it's the developer is choosing to align themselves with a brand, with a flag that has been in the business for many years, that the traveling public has good associations with and knows when they come into town that if they stay at a Best Western, they're going to get a quality product. We have inserted into the agreement as a way to safeguard the city that as a condition of the purchase and of the incentive that they must obtain the Best Western Plus flag. That is outlined in what's called the Best Western Hotels New Construction and Conversion Standards. That's up to Best Western to come in and evaluate and work with the developer to put together the exact plan specific to the property for redeveloping it, but at a design that meets their high standards. I feel that if we didn't have some type of standards clause, we're not hotel developers. We don't know what is right for a hotel, but by relying on these experts and their opinion, we'll be assured a better product in the end. This is a proven process that Best Western has worked with other developers to renovate existing or former Hampton Inn properties. And as you can see, it involves a reconstruction of the entire roof line, the adding of brick and other architectural elements that will really serve to freshen and modernize the property. Here's another image of a similar property undergoing a conversion. The hotel lobby as it is today has multiple levels to it, kind of a sunken area that is not ADA accessible. So that's one of the items along with the roof line and repairing and replacing the roof, and then also resurfacing and repairing the parking lot. We see those in consultation with our consultant PGAV as being three large extraordinary costs that would prohibit these developers, or really any developer, from coming in and acquiring this property and making serious investment and turning it around. And so it is those three specific extraordinary costs that we are looking to help the developer with overcoming by way of the incentive package that's proposed. Again, an illustration of what a typical room might look like. To borrow a page from Stephen Friedman on the risk spectrum for the city, we've got the asterisk down there on the far left side, lowest amount of risk for the city. This is structured as a pay-as-you-go rebate of new revenues only if those materialize. The city is not obligated in any way to fund any of the incentive from any other sources, only from the project revenues itself, if and when they materialized. We structured the deal in such a way that it leans more heavily to rebates of hotel-motel tax, more so than TIF increment, because as we've talked before, TIF increment is not really going to get generated until 2 to 3 years into the project. However, they're going to basically come in, buy the property, close it down, redevelop it. They're not going to be generating any income during that first year because it'll be under rehab. And then in the second and third year, when it's up and running, again, the assessed value is not going to hit and the TIF increment's not going to be there. So therefore, it's that packaging in with the hotel-motel tax that'll help make it work functionally for the developer. Be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Questions of Mr. Grammer?
Not a question as much as a comment, and you already touched on one of them, and that is the idea that the hotel-motel tax from that property is what will be used to create the incentive from the city back to the developer, right? I mean, it's not all hotel-motel tax from across the community. It's just that specific property.
That's correct, right.
And I think that was a good point to make. The other one, Austin, and I think it's spelled out. This is obviously more for public consumption. If you could just, and I'll read this, I don't know that it needs any explanation. As part of the agreement, Milan hotels will be required to pay any and all back real estate and hotel-motel tax owed, as well as to acquire and upgrade the property and so forth, because I know there was some comment made about property taxes being due. The agreement that we're voting on tonight requires the developer to make whole those back taxes.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'd just like to underline, I think we as a community need to take a step back and look at the business, not this particular business, but the entire hotel motel business in general is under duress in our community. The business is not there that has been in the past. And so we've got a glut of hotel rooms in our midst right now. We're running roughly break even for most of these runs in the 70 percentile. We're running year-to-date, August to August of 16, August 15 to August 16, we're running about 51% right now, okay, in our community and in our neighboring community to the north, which does affect us. And so that's something that we need to consider. I mean, this is not unlike any other business. If you've got more supply than you've got demand, somebody's going to fall off the table here. Okay, and so we're going to prop this one up, and I don't disagree that it probably needs it, and this is a great idea. It's a great tool, but who's next? Which one's going to be next? Unless we crank up this community and start growing jobs and growing more aggressively as a community and bringing folks in here, there's going to be another and another and another. Okay, and so instead of treating the symptom, let's go right to the heart of the issue here. Okay, and rebating taxes on an individual basis year after year, I don't think is the answer long term. We've got to think about doing something in terms of real economic growth, and so I'm open to looking at stepping back and taking a look at our hotel motel fee, our tax across the entire community. Okay, and allowing these people to actually make it in our existing environment. So it's just an observation. Thanks.
And again, just to clarify, this would actually result in a reduction of rooms. Yeah. And essentially what this is part of our broader strategy to take underperforming properties, underperforming neighborhoods, and turn them into engines of economic growth for our community.
And that's key. We have to take our entire community that is underperforming in the entire
And
business.
I think we've been
and
doing that pretty aggressively.
I don't
Kevin.
know that that's true.
I think
I
everything
think we need
from
to look at
Hy-Vee to Dick
when you
anyway. Okay, well, we don't.
when
agree.
you continue to increase fees and taxes across the board, sir, that does not happen. Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Let's see. Alderman Black and Schmidt.
Thank you, and thank you, Austin, for this presentation. I just, again, want to highlight something that Alderman Sage brought up, is that this is a self-funding project, that the revenues generated from this project are going to pay the TIF. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I just want to make that crystal clear for make sure the paper gets that, that just right. I know.
Maria will smack him.
No. So I don't know where your numbers are coming from, Alderman Lauer, on that. I know that I serve on the CVB, and we're talking all the time about groups that want to come into our community and have conferences, sporting events. I mean, I see press releases almost daily from the Convention and Visitors Bureau about new groups that are coming into our community. I know there's been some uptick and some downtick with the occupancy rates, and I'm looking at a report here that Crystal had sent us. It was 2015 numbers, and perhaps your question is worthwhile to see where that number, 51%, comes from. And I'll be reaching out to Crystal to see if she can send us the current occupancy rates, unless, do you happen to have that at the tip of your
Don't
finger?
have that with me right now.
And I know that her and her staff do a very methodical approach on what the rates are and their return on investment. And I was looking at a letter that she sent us in the March timeframe regarding the hotel project that we had talked about in a different venue. And the comment was made in that letter that there is a return on investment of almost $11 for every dollar that comes in through the hotel motel tax to our community. So to me, it's a solid investment. It's a safe option, and there's nothing that I'd love to have more than visitors come to our community and see all of the fruits of the investments in the Empire Crossing, and come a little bit further west and see some of the great restaurants and shops we have to offer there. So thank you.
Alderwoman Schmidt.
I actually wanted to make a motion.
Oh, I'd be very happy to have a motion.
I want to make a motion that we approve the redevelopment agreement that's been presented to us.
Okay. Is there a second to Alderwoman?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Painter. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll go ahead and start voting. Obviously, ayes in favor, nays opposed. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce. Madam Clerk, thank you very much. Austin.
Thank you.
Next, we move to a consideration of analysis of bids and approval of the fiscal year 2017 sewer rehabilitation contract. This will be the most riveting part of our evening, and we see Mr. Karch coming forward. Sewers. Okay. Jim, hit it.
All right, okay, great. Scott's going to be bringing up the presentation on the screen. Mayor and City Council, tonight we're going to be asking for your consideration of two different contracts. We're going to be doing one presentation, and they're asking you to take two different actions after this. The first, why are we doing this? There's two different pieces to this. Last week we talked about sewers and infrastructure. This week we're going to be talking about getting some of the work done. We need to be getting started on this. Part of this is asset management. The second piece is just a best management practices component. So whenever we look at our asset management piece, what you need to be reminded of is that most of our sewers are not rated currently. And even after this contract hopefully is approved, there will only be 13% of our sewers that are televised and rated. That leaves 87% of our sewers that we don't have a rating on. And so this is just the beginning of what we need to be starting and continuing on with. Most of our sewer work is largely unknown. So there are two components tonight. One is a CCTV contract. The other is a lining contract. So when we talk about CCTV, what is it? What is it about? We literally are sending almost a little vehicle, a little four-wheel vehicle into the sewer equipment, sewer pipe, and is actually televising it, rating it. It's keeping video for our own staff to be able to use later. And as you can see on the screen, just some examples. And you can see, let's take, for example, this top right picture. Take a look at this with me for a second. Up in the top right, you can see this is similar to some issues that we've seen in the past. What will happen is a person will come in with a sewer lateral, and they will sometimes in older parts of town, they will just break open the pipe. It's many times clay pipe. Just with a hammer, they would bust into it and push their pipe through. Down the road, that causes issues because the material they use to seal that up fails, and long term it causes issues. So these types of things we can identify proactively. Lining. Whenever you think about lining a sewer, the best example that I could come up with was a sock. And so I actually brought up for you an actual tube sock. It is a clean sock, I can tell you that. I have both my socks on right now, so it is not my sock. But this is a good example. What you actually see up on the screen is similar to a sock. What they do is in the truck, it's inverted. They then impregnate the material with resin, and then they use water or steam to actually push it back right side out into the pipe. So you can see on the screen, on the left side, it's inverted, and as they push it through, it comes right side out.
I have to apologize to you, Jim. You have made sewers fun. You've used a sock, and you used impregnate.
I'll leave the second word alone, but the first word we can talk about. Then what happens on the back end? On the back end, it shoots out of the end, and then they cut that off. I actually brought some material for you to hold. So, this is clean, so you should be good.
Clean sewer. Okay.
The first thing that's being handed around is the actual material that it starts off with. So that is the polyester fiber material that is used, and the resin gets impregnated into that. And once it is superheated with water typically, that's where you get the second material. So that's actual product that you can see out in the field. So that goes inside of the sewer pipe. So I know that's fun, and it's great to toss around. Some of you want to juggle it, but that is what actually can then provide some structural integrity inside of the pipe. More importantly, though, what it does is it actually then kind of provides that barrier for water. It provides a water seal barrier, so a lot of the failing pipes, it provides some ability for it not to fail. Why do that? Why do that? That actually is a best management practice. People, it is a best management practice in communities that we are doing more and more of, and we need to have a good program with. Pass it around in the audience.
Yeah, keep passing it back.
Okay. It is good stuff. Just don't hit anybody with it. Okay, so why do we do it? It is cheaper, like we've said many times before. It's better to be proactive than reactive. Many of you from the sewer master plan remember the IMEV sewer hole. It actually is online. It was a sewer on Douglas east of Business 51 that was so large, a hole in the sewer, that you could fit an IMEV into it. And so we dubbed it that. But in essence, it cost us $2,455 per foot to fix that sewer. Whereas if we would have identified it early on with CCTV and lining, it would have only been $133 per foot. We wanted to give you that as an example. Again, we've reminded you before that street resurfacing is directly tied to the underground. We don't want to forget that. And then whenever we talk about West Taylor, last week we talked about West Taylor as a reminder. It was $176,000 to resurface that street, but we didn't have time to show you some pictures. This is actual pictures of one manhole. This is some televising shots from one manhole in front of 1013 Taylor Street. So you can see right in here, and so my apologies to the resident who lives there. It's now a nice sewer, so it's no longer this. But this is some examples of manhole on the bottom right part of the screen. Here, this was a manhole. This was the bottom of the manhole gone. There is none left in it. You can see the failures in the pipe, cracked, failed. So there were point repairs, there was lining that was needed. So you can see the extensive amount of work that is needed in some parts of the community. So again, while some are not bad, there is a lot in the older parts of the community that very much need help. And so what we do, let's take it step by step. So again, we assess with the televising. We go in there, we look for structural breaks. Then different crews will go in and actually do point repairs, manhole repairs, and fix the sewers. Not all sewers can be lined. some sewers can't be lined. They're so far gone, they just need to be dug up. So you have to fix those point repairs first and then line through it. And the last piece, this is our Halloween sewer because it just looks scary, but you've got all sorts of things coming out of the side. It just does not look good. What is that? Those are tree roots. Trees and water always win. It's just a matter of time. And so trees will always find the water, and water is in the sewers, combination sewers, storm, sanitary. And so we have to have an effective televising program because if this were left unchecked, it's not going to be too long before that whole sewer will be a root ball. We've seen that time and time again without proper maintenance. That's what can happen. So this is an example of what we found on Eugene Street. And so I'm going to continue on and tell you the last thing that happens after you line is, this is James. He's with Hair Construction. And after you're done lining, you then have to come back and drill the holes where people's laterals are at. So whenever you think about that sock, there are different places on that sock that are pipes going out for people's homes. Well, they have to open those back up. What's interesting is that they actually send a robot in on the small sewers, and the next part, though, is if the sewer is 18 inches or larger, they actually send a person. It's got to be a really skinny person, but they send a person down into those pipes, and it is unbelievable to
Who
me.
doesn't have claustrophobia?
I don't know if I can guarantee you my body would not fit through that. So they'll actually send a person up in some of the larger sewers to be able to open up the laterals. Let's talk, in the last 2 minutes, let's talk about Eugene. I wanted to give you an example of wildcat sewer. Seemed like we like that as a council. That was a big issue. We think it's one coming up. There are positives and negatives with wildcat sewers. There are times when we can capitalize on the fact that there's a wildcat sewer. On Eugene, there's an alley west of Eugene between Chestnut, over in the Chestnut-Walnut area. Over there, there's actually a private alley sewer. There was a wildcat sewer. But it was in a public alley. It was not on record. It was not ours. But there were 3 homes. They were on that sewer, and there was a public storm inlet that was also on that sewer. We televised that sewer, and we actually found it was cheaper for the city for us to accept that, do the point repair, line the sewer, and it only cost us $40,000 to be able to provide sewer service for those 3 homes that previously didn't have direct public sewer access, and then line the sewer and accept it, compared to $240,000 if we would have done that differently. There are times when it's advantageous to us to be able to accept wildcat sewers or deal with them, but not always. Sometimes we have to go the other route. So the progress that we're making, in the last 3 years, we've done 8 miles of sewer lining. That is excellent progress. It is a good start. Out of the 350 miles of sewer, though, there's still a lot to go. The concern I wanted to leave you with, though, is that without changes in our funding, this best management practice will not continue. There's not continued sustainable funding moving forward in the out years for us to continue the practice of lining and televising the sewer. So that is a threat to us continuing to move forward with a healthy sewer program. So with that, we'll accept any questions that you have.
Questions of Mr. Karch.
Mayor, if I could, just 2 other quick comments. One is, I think it's important to point out on the second item, the televising. We want to be as robust and proactive as we can to extend as many miles as we can on the TV, so that next summer, if the council were to consider increasing our budget for resurfacing from $5 million to, say, $8 million or more, this particular contract hopefully will allow us to extend the amount of televising to give us, more miles of street to be considered. So I just want you to know that we're going to try and really push that to get as much of that information. And then one last comment, Jim, if you could, because the comments come up from several council members about where some of the sewer lining is going on. It may not always appear that it's in one the older part of town. Could you just comment again of how we're trying to accommodate a very robust street resurfacing program, and how sometimes we have to go into different areas of town, and it's not always kind of the older part of town that is represented from one map we had of 80 to 100-year-old sewers, so.
I give full
Thanks.
credit to David. He wanted me to have a map, comprehensive map of every sewer we were going to address. And I said, I'm sorry, we can't provide that. Here's why. The reason why we can't provide a comprehensive map of all that we're doing is we don't have enough information to even have all the sewers. As we're continuing to televise sewers, then we can point and say, that's where the lining needs to occur. What we'd like to have is all the sewers rated in town to where we could systematically provide a 5-year, 10-year plan for you. Without that, right now what we're doing is we're trying to find, well, what will the council do next year for resurfacing? Based upon that, we're coming up with the best list we can for staff to get information that we have on underground infrastructure. Then we're pointing the cameras at that direction, trying to find, are there major problems with sewers? Can they be taken care of with lining? Are they more than we can handle? Are they something we can just go ahead and resurface? So there's the balance constantly right now because we are behind the 8 ball as a staff. We don't have all the information yet. And so that consistent funding level from council will allow us to plan appropriately. But that's the kind of information that as a staff, we've got a great staff, but we need that additional resource for us to be able to plan.
Other questions? Alderman Black.
Thank you, and thanks, Jim. Can you go back to the slide that had the chart that showed the funding for, yes, that one.
With the red on it?
With the red, yeah.
Yes, okay.
So I guess my feedback, considering that funding is always an issue and resources, it seems to me the CCTV evaluations continue to go up. I'd hate for us to evaluate more than we could actually take care of, and so we're biting off more than we can chew, so maybe we can move some of that money towards maybe...
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Any of that, we can shift some of that accordingly. The main concept is we don't have all the sewers televised, so what we don't know. And so the more we can figure out, this isn't a master plan, this isn't a theoretical thing, this is actually getting into the sewers and figuring out what we got and how ugly it is. And so, regardless, you're right though, we can try to balance some of that out.
And just some positive feedback for your staff. I know that I've talked to some people who've seen Steve out there and doing that people find this fascinating, the little robot going in and figuring it all out.
It's fun stuff.
It's really fun stuff. I wouldn't watch it, but that's okay. But so thank you for all your hard work.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Is there any more questions? Is there a motion to approve the alternate bid A be accepted?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Painter. Is there a second?
A second.
Yeah.
Are we doing C and D together?
Do you want me to?
Can we do that?
We can do that. Yes.
We didn't state the motion that way, I don't
We
believe.
did. Okay. So, well, that's why Alderwoman Painter, the maker of the motion, would you be okay for presenting C and D together?
Yes.
And would the seconder?
I will second that. Yeah.
Seconder accepts that. All right, any further discussion? All right, again, an aye vote is in favor of approval of both C and D. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And we move on to item E, which is consideration of approving a resolution in support of privately funded renovations to the Creativity Center and long-term maintenance to the facility. We have a brief presentation by our city manager, and so I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Hales.
Mayor, actually, it's very, very brief.
Excuse
Last
me.
week...
Just if we can, Alderwoman
Okay.
Painter needs to
All right.
recuse herself. Thank you, Johnny.
It's very brief. Last week, we had discussion about the Creativity Center, some of the background, the history, and we even had a draft resolution for your consideration. And tonight, we brought back that resolution. There hasn't not been any changes to it, but if the council were to vote and to approve this resolution, I think a couple of key significant things would happen. One, the public would certainly understand and hear that the council's policy going forward is that the Creativity Center is going to be a long-term additional asset to the community. It's going to give the go-ahead for a hopefully very vigorous fundraising by Friends of the BCPA and others who will raise money to basically pay for any and all renovations to the Creativity Center, especially to reach the ultimate goal, possibly as the $5 million that the Farnsworth Group estimated a couple of years ago, which would be the total cost of 100% renovation. More than likely, it'll be split up into phases, to allow some interim improvement as time goes along. It also would allow the city to move expeditiously with existing funds that have been raised to address some high priority critical immediate needs, both the roof repair and the HVAC. I do want to just comment that this resolution will not be the final written document on all things that may be need to be addressed as we continue down the road of really continuing to expand all aspects of the Creativity Center and the fundraising. I think what we did learn in the background information that years ago, when there was a fundraising effort made, there could have been maybe a little bit more specificity, documentation, tracking to help ensure that down the road there was no vagueness just a lack of specificity on what money was being provided, for what improvements, how are we going to use it, et cetera. But those are just kind of more implementation issues down the road. This, I think, would bring to a major milestone in that this city council, unlike others in years past, would be making that very high-level public statement that you're behind a fundraising effort by the private sector. And that's what many, many citizens have been waiting for, is for the council to take that stance so there could be private funds raised for the eventual full remodeling and rehabilitation of this property. So with that, we present that resolution back to the council as you requested for your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alderwoman Schmidt.
Thank you for the conversation that we had during our work session on this. I think that was very valuable, and I really feel like we clarified a number of issues here. I would be happy to make a motion.
I'm thrilled to have the motion.
I would make a motion then that we accept this resolution that's been presented to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Burgess. Okay, discussion. Alderman Sage.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me maybe touch on a couple things from last week. I do believe this is a fine example of a private-public partnership, and I applaud that effort. My concern, and I alluded to this last week, my concern is embedded in the last sentence of Section 2 of the resolution, which reads, "The City of Bloomington will continue to maintain a facility in line with other city facilities." So after the Creativity Center is fully built out, and again, I understand, and it's been made clear that that will be done with private money, my concern, and I've asked several times for an estimate on what the annual maintenance cost, the facility upkeep will be associated with it after the build out is done. Obviously, it's going to be more than it is today. Because there'll just simply be more building there to maintain, more square footage that's been updated. So again, my concern is not rooted in the need for the short-term fixes using private money. It's not in the idea of private fundraising to renovate the building up to and including the vision encompassed by the Farnsworth study. My concern is not having any line of sight on what the annual upkeep, the annual maintenance will be, what the city will be required to spend on the facility going forward. And again, even though I've asked for that a couple times.
Alderwoman Burgess.
Yes, and I just want to highlight a portion of the conversation from last week, and then of course City Manager Hales did just mention it, is with regard to the city's obligation here. And just highlight the 14th, I think it's the 14th whereas clause, where we talk specifically here that at this point in time, the City Council is not in favor of additional city funds. And just for the purpose of discussion and looking forward, I firmly support that particular paragraph in here. I know there's been some talk about, well, you know, they'll try to raise the money privately, but if not, perhaps the city will step in. And from my perspective, I would not be open to considering any public assistance for the renovation of this facility absent a very vigorous and professional capital campaign, and that I would require proof that it would just not be possible for the public side of this to support this project, because I think very much so from what we've heard in the community is that there is strong support for this. And I think that we can have a very successful campaign here that will not require the city to pay anything for these renovations. So I just want to make sure, because we often talk about, having everyone set expectations, but I just want to make it clear that that's my point of view. While I fully support this resolution, I fully support this resolution as written. So I look forward to seeing your work. Thank you.
Alderman Lauer.
Well, I'll take it a step further, obviously. I feel like that there's some responsibility that we bear by ownership. To my knowledge, and I don't know whether maybe the $4 million includes fire suppression and ADA requirements, but I know that we just went through another round of requirements for the Coliseum. It's very expensive. This building hasn't even been exposed to that yet. And so I really think it belongs in the private sector. If there's that much support for it, I think it's a wonderful thing. But, the private sector in this country does work. It does not require government support, okay? Yes, we may have some city activities there, and we could support it in spirit, certainly, but I don't see where we have to be on the hook for this. And I think we will end up on the hook if we accept this, as it's written. It says up there in the top paragraph of the last section there, the city will be responsible for future maintenance. It is not defined in here, and so for that reason, I won't support it. Thank you.
Just to clarify, it's our building already.
I do understand that.
Okay. All right. Alderman Black and Howman.
Thank you. And I will be supporting the motion as presented, and I definitely accept Alderman Sage's comments. I was a member of the Budget Task Force, which is referenced in here. We had a robust discussion last week at our Committee of the Whole, so I'd encourage folks, if you want to learn more, check out that video as opposed to rehashing that conversation tonight. I think we can't be all things to all people, but I think there's definitely a place for the arts, and I think the public comment, I think Max spoke to that pretty effectively. And I grew up in a park district in which I went through the arts. Don't try to find the video, but there is young Scott doing ballet back in the day, and acting and all that stuff.
It's hard to picture that.
Yeah. So my point is that there is a public good that comes along with supporting the arts and having a space for creativity as such here. I think that I'm a product of a situation that came from there. And yeah, there's a private sector piece as well, but we can't be all things to all people. I think this is a small first step to making sure that we have that a commitment to our youngsters in the future and a full throated support of the arts. And maybe one day, too, if you work hard, you might become a $4,000 a year or so alderman. Stick with the arts. I don't know if that's... I don't know. So I'm just...
Or a $12,000 a year mayor.
Oh, look out. So I just think, we talked about this last week, and I'll reiterate it again, that there are some unknown costs that are out there, and I hope that the Creativity Center comes back in phases, and we can review that at each point in time. I don't think that's unreasonable, and I think I like hearing some of the public feedback. I've gotten some emails and some calls about this, so thank you so much for all the work that you guys are doing, and I look forward to seeing that group grow.
Alderwoman Howman.
Thanks. I'm going to follow up with Amelia's comment about the capital campaign and throw out a challenge to Tina, and that is that maybe the capital campaign would include an endowment as well that would then help to maintain the building going forward. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much again. Thank you, Tina, and everybody for all the hard work in this. At this point, we have a motion on the floor. Okay. The motion carries 6-2. There are 2 nays to announce, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Lauer, Alderman Lauer and Alderman Sage.
Okay. Thank you so much. At this point, we go to the city manager's discussion. Mr. Hales.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Jim Karch to come back up for just a moment. Just wanted to have Jim take a few minutes, both for the council's benefit, but also for the public's benefit, to talk about leaf collection. Seems like each year, I know many of the council members get inundated with questions, and because the particular leaf fall is so unpredictable. Thought it might be helpful, Jim, if you just take a few minutes and brief the council on this upcoming leaf collection, what they need to know, what the public, what homeowners need to know, as to when they can expect to have their leaves picked up.
We'll be in the
If
whole
you
town
can
tomorrow.
predict, the weather.
Well, unfortunately, this year is going to be a little bit difficult. The leaves are falling later than normal. And so what will happen is it will be a crunched time frame this year for leaf collection. That's unfortunate because there are so many leaves in this community for us to get up. We probably will be coming, I told David this morning, we'll probably be asking for some additional weekend days for our crews to be able to try to get the leaves up before the snow starts falling because that causes issues if we don't get it all collected. We're trying a new practice this fall. We're going to pilot something. We're going to try it with 20 signs, but as part of a conference I went to, I saw another community doing something that I really liked. Up on the screen, we're making about 20 signs on Type 1 barricades, those folding frames. We're going to be putting out signs that are 24 inch by 24 inch. City leaf collection this area next week. Please remove vehicles from the curb. What are we doing? We're going to be looking on Friday afternoon. Where do we think we're going to be next week? You know, it's not a wonderful crystal ball, but we're trying to say what areas will we be in on Friday afternoon if we can put these out. The hope and what we've seen and heard from other places is people drive home after work, come home on Friday. Oh, this is great. They're going to be here next week. Let's get let's get things out to the curb, not in the street. That's a key thing. Get it in the curb, not in the street. What happens if you put leaves in the street? It clogs up the inlets and causes other flooding issues. But by putting them in the back of curb and removing cars off the street that following week, our crews, it'll help our crews. They can be more efficient. It is so hard for our crews to fight around parked cars. That is so difficult. Not everybody has off-street parking, but for those that do, many in our community do, we ask that they try their best to be able to help our crews. So as leaves start, we've already started today. Our crews are out, but the reality is there's going to be, whenever they start dropping, it's going to be hot and heavy. So we also will do everything we can to put the resources toward it, and we appreciate the city's help with all of our citizens in partnering in this way.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, quick question, Jim. So how would you say, what's the average that you would be in one particular neighborhood? Twice? Once a week, every other week?
The problem's going to be this fall is going to be getting around. The concern is they're not really dropping much yet. There's some on the ground, but there's still a lot in the trees. And so whenever they do drop, I'm concerned we're not going to be able to get around as much as we have in the past. We actually looked at modifying our snow map, or like we have that snow sections map that citizens go out to. We actually looked at modifying that for leaf collection. I saw some other communities do that as well, to where you could try to even predict different snow sections. We weren't able to meet that in the time frame given, so we're going to look at that for next year. But the best we're going to just continue to do the best we can. Don't have a good answer for you.
Anything else?
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Another quick item, I just placed in front of each one of you just some information on the Economic Development Council has issued One Voice project guidelines. Thought it might be helpful, too, for you to look at some of the past projects. Currently, staff and with input from the council, we're looking at least 2 projects to put forth as One Voice projects. One is the Main Street, Main and Center, kind of North Main and Center. It was the topic of a Tiger Grant last year request by IDOT. And IDOT was seeking some funding. It is still possible that they may solicit a Tiger Grant again this year, or I should say next year, because the Tiger Grants announcements don't usually come out till in the spring, and then you need to submit those. But we have reached out to IDOT. They're interested in making another go at a Tiger Grant application. And we do feel that it'd be worthwhile to also include that as a One Voice project because federal funds would be sought later on. The other project is Hamilton, Bund to Commerce. Now keep in mind this last year we shifted to a fast lane grant for the Hamilton Road Bund to Commerce, and that more than likely would be what we would do again this year. So, as you keep in mind, we will be looking at different federal funding, but also making sure that we coordinate with both the town of Normal, McLean County, and in this case, the main and center, what is IDOT going to be and doing? And if they definitely are going to be soliciting a Tiger grant, again, something for us to consider. We'll come back next year, or next week, with kind of a revised list of these two or any other projects. If you have any thoughts or information, please let us know. We'll continue our dialogue with our other community partners. And then at the last regular council meeting of November, we'll come back and ask you to approve those so that we can formally submit those to the EDC. So hopefully, if you have any other thoughts and ideas beyond those two, please let us know, but that's kind of preliminarily two projects we're considering. Also, do want to make you aware that on November 14th, actually our next regular meeting of the City Council, we have asked Andy Johnson, the General Manager for Connect Transit. He will be here together with members of their staff, and it also appears that we'll have other trustees join us. This was a request many of you made, that we have an opportunity to get together, discuss with him concerns we've been hearing in many forums, and you probably also asked that they did take action to make some minor changes, but the intent of this work session would be to hear from them. How are they addressing many of these concerns, and anything else you might have on the new routes? So just to let you know, we do have confirmation they will be here. And last, I just want to, besides many staff members, tonight, as Austin was up here, the council has taken action on the second of two very significant tax increment financing districts. Getting this far on a project like that doesn't come easy. It doesn't come without a lot of work, not only on the part of Austin, but our consultant who does the hard work on the feasibility study, Kathy Orr, our special attorney for redevelopment matters. But just a shout out to Austin. And also we had that small project that really came together literally in just a couple of months' time on the Baymont end. So just didn't have a chance to say that earlier, but just applaud to Austin Grammer. And just to let you know that, frankly, I keep talking to Austin about, can you take on any additional work? And usually I hear no. But oftentimes then I start hearing the weekends he spends and evenings, but he's just done a tremendous job, and we've got additional work underway, probably additional areas and financing tools we need. But a lot of great progress have been made this past year, especially in the TIF area, because of his work. So just a shout out to him. And those are the comments I had for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And I also want to thank our Mayor Pro Tem and Scott Black for filling in for me while I was in Cuba. As many of you know, I went to Cuba with the Illinois Municipal League, and actually it was structured by Dan Rutherford, former state treasurer and state senator, who has been trying to really energize and open up Cuban markets for Illinois agribusiness since 1999. He went there with George Ryan. Actually, they love George Ryan. His picture is in all kinds of places. Because I did try to delicately suggest that he might not be quite as popular in Illinois as he is in Cuba. But he's the first American governor to have a trade expedition there. Our sister city is Queberien, and I wasn't able to go there. I did spend 8 days with Sandra Rodriguez from Queberien, and so we're going to be able to reestablish our sister city relationship. And I think Alderwoman Schmidt and maybe Alderman Fruin were on the council at the time in 2002, 2003. There were two delegations that went there, and well, you didn't go there, I know. And because we're Normal and Bloomington are the only two cities in Illinois that have sister city relationships with Cuba, and we've got actually got the documents in my office that the Cuban government approved. The people from throughout Illinois were interested in working with us in our sister city relationships, and certainly, especially as the markets are opening. And the markets are opening. There's no question about it. They loosened things up about 20 years ago, and then when the president did an executive order that lifted some of the sanctions, there are now American tourists that come there, and a lot of things are changing. So certainly several things we should realize. It's the size of Illinois in terms of population, about 12 million people, and it is 1,000 kilometers long. So that's like about from here to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So it's a very large country and certainly very interesting in many different ways. And so the educational institutions there were very interested in the defining documents that set up this relationship. ISU supported Illinois Wesleyan, Heartland Community College, District 87, Unit 5. There are a lot of educational linkages. And when we went to actually a cigar farm and factory, I learned more about cigars than I ever wanted to know in my life. But one of the women who was there was quite interested, as almost all Cubans were, in America, and they want to do business here. They want us. In fact, I said, hey, if we're the first, if the sanctions are totally lifted, would you open up the first cigar shop in Illinois in downtown Bloomington? And she was obviously very interested in that. So we want to be poised once these markets come open that we take full advantage of it, and also in terms of our linkages with our sister city. And again, I have to say Dan Rutherford did an unbelievable job, just outstanding. And you'd think the guy was running for governor of Cuba because he knew just about everybody and was sending out his little nail files, Rutherford for governor, everywhere he went, and everybody knew him. It was actually just amazing. So I joked with him. I said, I'm not going to tell Raul Castro that you're out campaigning because we might not be able to get off the island. But anyway, it was an incredible trip at so many levels. We talked about it at my open house, and I wanted to bring some things to show some of our Parks and Rec director and Jim Karch about things, the public works facilities, even in Havana and the other areas. You think our streets are bad, and all kinds of things that I'm sure Tom Daveriner would know are not code, literally live wires sticking out of buildings in downtown Havana. So it's definitely the situation of a third world country. And obviously the water supply. The mayor of Havana, Illinois came with us, and she and a couple others got sick from drinking the water. And it's not because if you have the mojitos and the ice melts, there's not enough rum in there to kill it. At one point I started feeling sick, and I did what every, good mayor of Bloomington would do. I ordered 3 shots of rum, and I was fine. It killed off whatever was in there. Anyway, I'd be happy to talk about this as we move forward, and I really look forward to us reestablishing our relationships with Quai Barrien. Okay.
I will.
Yeah.
Accolades, certainly. Open market system works, man. The entire Caribbean is an open market and has been for many, many years. So we should not just ignore our neighbors to the south in the Bahamas, the Big Island. I've been there many times. Puerto Rico is a U.S. subsidiary, okay, and we have responsibility there. And folks, it's not unlike Cuba, except that it is an open market already and has been for many years. And certainly, they would love to do business. The Dominican Republic grows wonderful tobacco. I've tested it. I guarantee it. Haiti certainly could use our help. There is no question. And by the way, they have some of the most beautiful beaches on earth. And I'm pretty experienced in that manner. I've been to a few beaches, and I will tell you, it is a gorgeous environment, except for where it's habited, and they could use some help. And so, Mayor, certainly it's a good thing to open up the markets, but there are open markets in the Caribbean and elsewhere, and we should be concentrating on those that are open. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's the point. If you go to the Caribbean islands, American businesses there. There's McDonald's there. There are all kinds of things. That's the point. The big market that's not open is the largest island.
I've been in a lot of areas that there is no McDonald's available. Okay. So don't get the wrong idea. Buying fish on the beach is the open market. So thanks.
Okay. Alderman Fruin.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak tonight? Because I'm going to speak and then I'm going to bolt for the door. Anybody else?
Nobody else's light is lit up, so it looks at this point you got the last word, Jim.
All right. Well, this doesn't happen very often, but today is my 65th birthday, see?
Oh. I would say speech, but this is late, so.
It only happens once, Jim.
It does only happen once.
It only happens once.
So it has given me a chance to reflect a little bit on life, and last couple months, I've been pouring through the Medicare information And now I'm on the government dole and off the private insurance. So now I'm in the Medicare generation. Is there such a thing as a Medicare generation? So, and then I just took an extended vacation outside the country, and I think, Mayor, you and I were talking in the hallway a little bit about, when you get away from home, you get a chance, whether it's Cuba or wherever it is, you get a chance to reflect on life and your work-life balance. And so, long story short, in my reflection over the last few weeks, I've decided to retire from the city council position, and I'll finish my term, which runs until the end of April. So I'll still be around for 6 months. But I do think it's time for a fresh face and fresh perspective, and change is always good. I think it's probably a reflection of three things. It's a reflection of more time with family. We've got one son in Iowa City, one son in Minneapolis, and they have kids and our grandchildren, obviously, and we always say that our kids and our grandkids grow up too fast, so we want to spend more time with our family and grandkids. Maybe some winter travel too, so I'm not dismissing that I might be absent on a Monday or so between now and the end of April. But I do want to finish my term, and I'm looking forward to it. Secondly, I want to be careful how I say this. I don't intend it for personal gain, but I've really enjoyed my second career in real estate, and so I want to devote more time to my second career in my real estate and my clients there. So, and thirdly, I do believe in term limits. We have imposed term limits on our board and commission members, and I think what is good for them is good for ourselves. And I'm now finishing my 10th year as a Ward 9 alderman, and that's about the limit of my attention span anyway. But I served 8 years in a Ward 3 alderman spot, and I served, I think, 6 years on the planning commission, so 24 years is a long time for one chair, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't tend to go away. I hope that after the first of the year I can share with the council and we can have some communication on how I can serve the city away from the city council chair, and might be on the podium there, or might be helping other people. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I've got some ideas on how I can help the community. Like a lot of us, lived in the community all my life, love the community, and want to continue to serve the community, but I just think a new chair is the right place to be. So anyway, leave it at that. This is not an election speech, but it's a retirement speech, and so we know there'll be one new person up here next year, and thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for your service. Give him a round. Well, we really appreciate everything, Jim, and happy 65th birthday. Is there a motion to adjourn so that Jim can enjoy the rest of his 65th birthday? Moved by Alderman Lauer, second by Alderwoman Schmidt. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, and happy birthday, Jim.